And colleagues, building on the courtesies that we heard so eloquently stated from our senators on the floor, I also want to take a moment to recognize Memorial Day and honor and mourn the men and women who have died while serving in the United States military forces. I know many of you as well will be attending and observing Memorial Day events in your districts as part of our national tradition. And Memorial Day became a national holiday officially in 1971, but as Senator Brocksmith noted, its legacy traces all the way back to the Civil War when it was known as Decoration Day. And personally for me, it is also an opportunity to reflect upon the service of my family members and the contributions they have made in establishing our ability to be free in this country. Specifically, I went by my parents' house this morning and I picked up a couple photographs and a little bit of memorabilia. I know it's probably difficult to see from back behind where you're sitting, but this is my grandfather, Frederick Wagner. He grew up on a small farm in upstate New York, outside of Ithaca, and during the Great Depression, thanks to Franklin Roosevelt, he had jobs constructing roads for the Civilian Conservation Corps in Appalachia. He found his way to Los Angeles, where he slung drinks at the Brown Derby for people like Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Stewart, met a very lovely woman at a big band dance. And then when the aggression started in Europe, he signed up for the Air Corps, and he was supposed to fly 25 missions over France and Germany, but because over 80% of his squadron died as a tail gunner, he ended up having to fly 30. He came back, like so many did, with what was then called shell shock. He lost his hearing. He never really wanted to talk about the war. And then on my mother's side, this is Robert. You might recognize the name. This is Robert Howells. He's my grandfather. Grew up as a small-town fisherman in California and played on a football scholarship at UCLA. I know I've talked to Senator Hansel about this one. He was a quarterback. He was 5'6". He was basically a little bowling ball. It was back in the days before they had the forward pass. And he would block for these tailbacks that were really the amazing athletes, including one named Jackie Robinson on the freshman team before my grandfather hurt his back. But he also signed up for service and served as a PT boat captain in the South Pacific. And I know that even I have memories of when I was a child with him sort of going through the shakes because I think he still had malaria even into his 70s. But I brought those two photographs and I brought the Distinguished Flying Cross that my grandfather received at the end of the war. And for me, for this Memorial Day, it's also very personal. My son, Carlo, has decided to join the service. He has signed up he just was accepted in the University of Washington. He'll be starting this fall, and he is signing up for the NROTC, and he wants to be a Marine officer. Certainly didn't get that aspiration from me, but I'm very, very proud of him. I also want to echo the comments that Senator Boquist, Senator Meek, Senator Woods, and our Sergeant Major James Ivory Manning Jr. for your incredible sacrifices as we honor and remember the Oregonians and the Americans who have died in service to our country this weekend.